Hi everybody, it's Christina from Adventures in Polish Land. Today I have a mid-year reading goals check-in to share with all of you. So at the beginning of the year, I shared the 5 reading and book related goals that I made for myself. And I wanted to check in now that we're about halfway through the year and share with you how I'm doing. I'm not doing as well as I could be, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and jump right in. The first goal, I'm reading off of my planner here, which I've also abandoned my planner, but that's besides the point. My first goal was to read 100 books, and at the end of June, I was at 35 books. So I was about 15 books behind where I should have been as we got to the halfway point of the year. I'm not too surprised about this because when you read 100 books in a year, you essentially have to be finishing a book every 3.5 days, which is really tough to do. I've also been on 2 vacations in the first half of the year. I dealt with some health issues and I've just had a lot going on. So being at 35 is really good because if I do keep up the pace and finish the year with 70 books read, that will be the most books that I've ever read since I've started Goodreads in a year. In 2019, I had read 68 books, and that's when I was doing a project called the My Year of Rereading, where I reread a bunch of books that I own, and a lot of those were young adult. Now, although I still am reading some children's and young adult books, I read the majority of literary fiction, so I'm really happy with my number being 35 because I think I still have a chance to read more than I ever have in my adult life. And even though I don't think I'm gonna make up all of that lost room and get to 100, the point with that number was to stay off my phone and stay on a book, and I think I'm getting better at doing that. So not a success, but also not a failure. The next goal was to buy all of my books used except for 5. I primarily buy all of my books used or I check them out from the library, and the reason I do that is primarily for environmental impact. I know that authors do not get paid if I'm buying their books pre-owned because they were only paid from that initial royalty from the first sale. However, there are so many books on this planet. If you go to thrift stores, if you go to any sort of store that sells used merchandise, there are usually tons of books there, and I just want to reduce that impact on our landfills as much as possible. So that's why I choose to buy primarily used books. If you have any suggestions on how I can support authors more monetarily without just buying brand new goods, I would love to hear. But for now, I'm going to stick with that because that's what I'm most comfortable with. That being said, I am doing great with this goal. I had 5 exceptions for when I could buy new books, and so far I've purchased 3 new books. The first one is actually a pre-order. I pre-ordered Patricia Lockwood's new book, which is coming out in September, so I don't have it yet. Patricia Lockwood is my favorite, or one of my favorite authors. I shouldn't say she's my all-time favorite, but I really love her books, especially no one is talking about this, and she has a new novel coming out. I can't remember the title, but I will leave a link to it in the description box. It sounds right up my alley, and so I went ahead and pre-ordered that, and I ordered it from bookshop.org, which is an online resource that supports local independent bookshops, and I use their affiliate link, so if you shop through my link, I do get a small commission as well. And then I recently went to Maine and I bought 2 books in an independent bookshop there. I do like supporting indie bookshops, so even though I don't buy a lot of my books new, it was nice to buy 2 there and support that little store. So I'm doing great with goal number 2. Goal number 3 has been a big failure. That is to read 4 Stephen King books. So one of my lifetime goals is to read all of Stephen King's books in publishing order, and I would like ideally to read 4 a year because they do take me a bit of extra time to read and they can be a bit dense. So instead of reading one after the other, I like to sprinkle them in here and there. Well, the next book that I have to read is Christine, and that is a big book that I know is probably going to take me 2 weeks at minimum to a month. And when I'm trying to read a book every 3.5 days, that can be really challenging for me to pick up a book that I know is going to take me a significant amount of time. So I have been pushing that off, but hopefully by the end of the year, I will at least read 2 Stephen King books. We'll see how that goes. My next goal was to reread at least 5 books, and I'm pretty sure I've done that. So I've reread More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. I read Music of the Dolphins. I read P.S. Longer Letter Later and Snail Mail No More. Did I reread another book? I'm trying to remember the last one. One moment. Okay, I just checked and I also reread The Secret Circle. So I'm at 5 rereads completed for the year. I've hit that goal. I'm not going to stop though. I would really like to reread Perfect Little World by Kevin Wilson. I'm looking at it up on my bookshelf. I absolutely love that book the first time I read it, and I've been wanting to reread it for years, but for some reason I'm afraid I'm not going to like it as much on the second read. But I need to push past that. I want to read that, and I'd like to read some of his other books that I haven't gotten to yet. So even though I've completed this goal, I'm not going to stop. I want to keep rereading because it's a big passion of mine. I just love rereading books and learning more about them. And my final goal for the year was to keep my physical TBR to 5 books. Couple of disclaimers with that. I don't count my Stephen King collection as my active TBR because I'm really only seeking to read the next one, but I collect vintage paperbacks when I find them. I also don't count my Rick Riordan collection. I'm still undecided if I'm going to continue on with his books or not, but my physical TBR right now is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus I'm reading one of them, 9 books. That being said, I'm not concerned about this goal because I've been doing really well this year at buying a little stack of books and then reading those books and then buying another stack and reading those books. So I just went to Maine. I just bought 5 new books. I plan to read those in the coming months and then I will buy more. So that's going great. I feel like I'm in a great place with my book buying. Usually I buy one every few months or buy a few every few months, and that's working out really well for me. So out of my 5 reading related goals for the year, I've accomplished 1 so far, which is to reread at least 5 books. And I feel like I'm definitely on track for 2 more, which are to buy all of my books used except for 5 and to keep my physical TBR to 5 books. I don't think I'm going to get to 100 books, and I don't think I'm going to read 4 Stephen King books, but I'm still going to keep reading and keep making progress towards those goals, even if I don't reach those numbers in the end. I hope you are all doing well with your reading goals. If you're not meeting certain numbers, don't get frustrated. At the end of the day, the point is to read and enjoy what we're reading. So let me know in the comments how your goals are going. I would love to hear, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.